Internet, hello you absolute lovelies. Let's talk all about Andor Season 2, Episode 1, the return of my favorite serialized Star Wars. I love this show. I am so glad this show is back. I'm also so glad this show has found an audience. It was a smaller show for the first start of Andor. Like when Andor started, people were like building this grassroots campaign, and then I found out like it became this giant testament to what Star Wars can be, which, much like a rebellion, is beautiful to see a small little cadre of people fight against an empire of mediocrity. I love me some Star Wars Andor. Before I dive into it, we're going to do full spoilers on episode 1. I am going to be doing each individual episode, not by section. We're going to do episode 1, 2, and 3. Hope you guys like that. If these do well, I'm going to do 4, 5, and 6, not chunk 2 and chunk 3. So please leave a like on this video to help the algorithm like this video. Please leave a comment on this video. Let me know what you thought of episode 1. And if you are new to this page, please hit that subscription bell. We have passed 45K. We are on the road to 50K. When we hit 50K, gonna do a big old 50 comic book giveaway. I do comic books on this page. I do movies. I do TV. If you're into any of the pop culture goodness, please subscribe. Andor, let's talk about it. Andor Season 2 kicks off in a very interesting place because we end on a series of cliffhangers that inevitably lands with Rogue One. It's a really fascinating format to know exactly where something goes and still be this riveted by it. And what's crazy is all of this ties into the greater Star Wars universe, but in a way it doesn't feel beholden to it. That is my favorite thing about what Star Wars can be. This is as far from the Skywalker saga as we've really gotten, while still being similarly timeline, similarly toned, obviously, by the way things end, but it feels so real and lived in. I love that Star Wars, when it's hitting on all cylinders, can be an all ages property, can be for adults, can be a different medium like animation, can be something insane like the Christmas special, but there is such a wide array of storytelling within the Star Wars universe because what Star Wars is, when it's at its best, is a beautiful allegory for our world. What it does best is gives you that Trojan horse of morality and has these conversations erupt in high concept sci-fi. And I think the best adult drama, slow burn, intense thriller of any of it is Andor. I put Empire up there as my favorite bit of Star Wars lore, but most people do. It is action-packed, it's thrilling, it's full of captivating characters, it's able to give you a lot to think about, but that is exactly what Andor is going, but even longer form and more characters. So we're coming back with the consequences of Season 1, with us now being invested enough in the characters that we can launch right into a whole new world with these characters. And we've got Cassian Andor, who we are so invested in, giving us this immediate take on what it takes to be part of the rebellion. So many quotable lines in this opening that are just about what it is to act for humanity versus what the status quo is. And I love the humanity of that girl betraying the Empire that says, like, I had fun here, and him being like, yeah, that makes sense, that's okay. And the structure of the Empire, just by a few lines of dialogue, knowing that just because you're working in the Empire, you're not trapped in some horrible black and white system of cruelty. There is a worker mentality in so many of these environments. There is an escape to greener pastures by working in some of these situations for the Empire. We glean this from very minimal conversation. It always reminds me of like Kevin Smith dialogue where you talk about the workers in the Death Star, but we're getting to meet these people and we're seeing the humanity in these people. And I love him saying, like, you're coming home to your own body. You're becoming who you truly are by doing this rebellion, by fighting against the obvious and evil oppression you're seeing. But it doesn't mean your time here isn't pure evil. Like, it's not just wrong. It's you've lived and you've done things. So I just love that beautiful look and nuance of all those things, while also being like, yeah, you have to not be okay. You can't be complicit with these actions. You need to come back home to your body in this rebellion. And I got so much out of that opening conversation. The acting was incredible. That actress, my God, what an incredible guest star role in like 10 minutes, what it gave us. But then you have this hilarious and action-packed scene, this takeoff that immediately shows us the opposite of unfortunately, this does tie directly into Star Wars because of some conversations, but the Mary Sue problem of like someone just does things right away. And if it's a dude, the Gary Sue, I think Mary's Lady Gary. Is it Gary Sue? Is there a dude version? Let me know in the comments below. But when people can just do a thing and just take off with skills that they wouldn't have, he is a very capable dude. Doesn't mean he knows how to fly a TIE fighter. So I love that sequence, just showing the reality of it, and then that planting seeds for the entire episode, and so much of the tension that builds from that. But I love how real that was, and I love that it gives us some comedy to, breathe for a second, but also some beautiful action and tension, and all of this building out Star Wars, making it more real, all the while using the incredible sound design of Star Wars, giving us those pings of nostalgia of hearing the pew pew, but also the sound of the TIE fighters and all those things, which just reminds us why we love Star Wars, but in a brand new setting, and in a brand new tone, in a brand new dramatic way that isn't as lighthearted as the original trilogy, that isn't as, seated in different mythology that led to the old trilogy as the prequels, that isn't as kind of replicating of the original trilogy as the sequel trilogy. It's its own genre, it's its own tone, this drama, this slow burn, but it uses the weapons, literally, pun intended, but also the metaphor of weapons of sound. It uses all that to endear us, and this episode of this show did that so well, because we were able to meet all these new characters and immediately be invested. I loved it when he crash lands. Of course, he's dressed as a test pilot for the Empire. Why would these rebels believe him? And rebellion isn't universal. It's not like one big old team versus one big old other team. The Empire's an empire, but even in that, there's sects, and we see that with the incredible Ben Mendelsohn conversation. But these are people just trying to survive, and there's infighting, and there's chaos, and all of that is so real, especially in times of war. I love that this looks at the nuance of people just trying to survive, and how that causes friction and tension. And 2 days of no eating, everybody's just trying to live, and that causes its own infighting. And then you've got the Empire side, and the duality of that, of them figuring out what they want out of Grom and these spider, economy-fueled people, and how much that mustache-twirling evil they're willing to do. The discussion of propaganda, which I'm sure is going to come up more because that's a huge part of war. The discussion of economy, and the Emperor wanting this, infinite fuel source to balance out the power, to grow the power, but also to put in a balance of where all this lands. All of this being the human condition of power and seeking more of it, and infighting and politics even amongst people. And then you've got all of that happening while you've also got the incredible Skarsgard and that whole world that feels so rich. And good God, the costumes, they feel so lived in, but clean and fresh and rich. One of my biggest issues, and I know this is, plucking at a very specific thing, but the Acolyte looked like they were shopping at the Disney Channel or the Disney store, and they were like Disney Channel show sets. This is the opposite. This feels like these outfits are rich but lived in, and polished but still intricate. Like they feel like actual clothing, even though they're nice and clean. A lot of people, when I was upset about the wardrobe in that show, were like, yeah, it's because they're new. I was like, yeah, but they look like they're off the rack, and it looked like a Disney Channel show. This, I love that you can see where this hundreds of millions of dollars of budget went. I'm also so happy that Disney put this money towards something so smart and so capable and so trusting of its audience, so nuanced, something that's not just a shiny object, but it gets to be shiny because it's beautiful and lived in and lush and rich. There's no volume use in most of it. It is sets and practical, with practical wardrobe, with actual design that feels like an architect built it, that feels like we've lived in these worlds. The worlds that are rich in this look rich and look lived in, and they look old money. Like when you go to like Nantucket or Cape Cod, they look like they have history. The architecture looks like it has history. That's so important when you're making something like war, because you need to care about these people. You need to know where they stand. You need to have inclinations toward them. You need to have predispositions toward them. I'm predisposed to not quite trusting people that look like they dress rich. I am also aware that I'm picking people of the rebellion that I identify with in my own personal life that I might trust more, but shouldn't necessarily trust more. That is so interesting and fun, and more like our reality than a lot of other Star Wars. So this absolutely captured what I love about Andor Season 1. Again, this is only the first episode. I'm going to be doing each individual episode, so keep an eye out on episode 2 of Season 2 in an hour. Episodes 1, 2, and 3 of Season 2 dropped at once. I hate that. The binge model I think is awful. I'm glad the writer, Tony Gilroy, is happy with that, because it seems like they're each a segment. Personally, though, I would have loved this week to week so I could actually have longer conversations, water cooler conversations for a week about all of the stuff I just discussed and so much more. And then it ending on a cliffhanger is wonderful when you're like, what's going to happen? They were clearly shooting at the TIE fighter. There's clearly all this infighting. Also, if I've gotten any of the language wrong, I usually preface this with I'm a very casual Star Wars fan. I love the original trilogy. I'm a big fan of the Empire, and yes, Last Jedi. I'm going to save it for the end, so that way when you all bail. But I love when Star Wars is controversial and bold, but not just for the sake of itself. I love when it's saying something. I love when Star Wars lets itself be bold, and war is political, and war is making a statement. And when Star Wars feels like it's actually a place of war, and when it's actually addressing the human condition, like Bill Burr's character in The Mandalorian, or what Empire does, or in my opinion what The Last Jedi does, that's when I'm happy. But I don't know a lot of mythology. I don't know the books. I don't know the comics. I don't know a lot of the animated stuff. But this is my jam. So if I messed up, it's also wicked late. If I mixed up or messed up any of the dialogue or titles or any of those things, I do apologize, Star Wars fans. But I'm just enjoying it as a casual, and the TIE fighter scene at the end where they're clearly, damaging it, but there's also this infighting between them. We don't know how things are going to go. I love when something that's a prequel can still have stakes, and I can still be invested in a cliffhanger that leads to something, even though I know where those characters end up. That is truly good writing, truly good storytelling. Very impressed with this show. Top to bottom, I'll be back in about an hour for episode 2. Please, like I said, leave a comment below. Let me know what you thought of this first episode. Let me know what you thought of the first season, how we jump back in a year later and all of the consequences therein, and what an incredible, that opening actress right into him crash landing in this new planet conflict, into what Skarsgard's dealing with, into, everything going on with Ben Mendelsohn and the Emperor and all of that. Like, so many great immediate storylines going forward, and so much Star Wars lore. Just the shooting of the droid, jumping in the TIE fighter, all that sound just brings you back, but then you get some new rich storytelling. Enchanted. And I didn't mention Adria Arjona and that planet. Man, the Uncle Ben type character, that guy's enchanting and incredible. Adria, man, I'm so captivated by her and her decisions and her strength and her curiosity and her, just behind her eyes, there's so much intelligence but curiosity at the same time. That whole planet, everything that's going on there, very Tatooine. Very excited to see where we go next in an hour. I'll see you guys in an hour. Please like, subscribe, comment. Let's do some more Andor. Hope this does well so I can keep covering it as individuals, not as a chunk, because I want to keep doing this like this. All right, much love. I'll see you in an hour for the next one. Bye.